Good afternoon, everyone. Looks like we still have a couple people joining, but we'll go ahead and get started. This afternoon, I'd like to introduce you to the QuietLite noise control window systems by Noise Barriers. My name's Jason Cardell. I'm the Western Regional Manager. I've been in sales and engineering for over 30 years now and started in automotive specialty dynamometers. Done a lot of construction over the years and been in noise control for about 15 years. Our agenda today is, discussing the QuietLite product, but really what is that product and how do they perform in the industry? Where and when can they be used, and any examples near the end that we have for you. So the QuietLite overview, we have a number of different frame styles. So pretty much everything that we're going to construct is going to be a hollow metal or a metal style frame. We don't do anything in the aluminum or extruded. In this particular product, these would really focus on our steel lines. In that, we have our hollow metal frames, what we call our split frame, which is a hollow metal frame that's designed to wrap a wall, and our specialty frames, which can be anything from a U-channel frame to, say, a studio style window that can get dressed in more of an architectural finish. Our windows range from an STC 48 through 64. In all of our brochures that you're going to find, both on the internet or from any of our salespeople at Noise Barriers, we have a pretty comprehensive list of the different test reports that we have done. And that really varies anything from our STC rated, 43, our 48, the 43 is kind of a specialty window we use in some modular enclosures. The 48 all the way through 64s, we try to give as much nomenclature on that based on these charts as you can see. The window components are going to really start from a 12 gauge frame. On all of our windows, we design those as a double window system, or two panes of glass. So there's an inner pane and an outer pane. Between those, there's a liner, and we use that for sound absorption between the layers of glazing. It's covered by perforated steel. It's typically always painted black, and the materials are foam. We can fabric wrap the fiberglass panels also, or we can do stretched fabric panels between the glass frames. A lot of those components may be by others where we're just supplying the components of the window assembly itself. In some cases, we may add desiccant material, which is a hydroscopic substance used for drying out the windows if they're in a moisture-rich or a high humidity climate. Typically, the glass is going to be called either glass or a glazing. And then we also have our gasketing, which is designed to seal the glazing to the frame. In most cases, we're going to add stops or glass stops, and those are just small shims that are going to keep the window separated from the metal frame. And then paint. We can offer it in prime paint. We can do it in a finish paint in any standard RAL powder coat color. Our QuietLite window options include our U-frame, the HM frame, which I had mentioned, and the hollow metal split frame. We also have some inoperable window systems, and we get into some in metal systems, and we do a pretty vast array of aluminum frame sliding window systems also. The steel frames are always going to be factory assembled windows. HM is going to mean the hollow metal design, and that's indicative of all of these windows that we're discussing today. Double glazed, obviously, STC 43 to 64. There's four systems that are our standard designs. The U-frame, which is a applied glazing system around the frame or to each side of the frame. I'll show you an example of that. A fixed frame, which is our standard, kind of our standard hollow metal frame, we call it. And those units are always glazed at the factory. The split frame is a very unique piece because it's designed to wrap a wall or wrap an opening in some cases. And they are not joined at the factory. They're not glazed at the factory. It is something that we glaze in the field. However, they're very nice for unique situations, maybe recording studios where we have extra wall depth, or we want to use those specialty fabrics between the two glazings. Really neat window system. And then we obviously have an operable system in metal, a little bit more unique because we are limited at some point just because of depths and things like that it takes to get to the higher ratings. All of our testing is done in a NAVLAP accredited acoustical lab, and we offer these in STC rated, ballistic, and privacy options, so we can do a switchable glass. Uniquely, we can do an STC rated and ballistic rated window for some shooting ranges, things like that. All of our factory glazed windows, if not too large, except for, excuse me, I messed that up. All of our windows are factory glazed if they're not too large, except for the split frame windows. This would be an example of the Uframe system. As you can see, there's a metal channel that surrounds the perimeter housing of the window. And then there's an applied glass stop to the edge of those. The glass typically can be 1/4 inch up to 1/2 inch. We do have some glass variations in between that. And it's designed to almost insert as a cassette into a wall. So it's very, very nice if you want to finish the system up to that perimeter glass stop. Our hollow metal frame, which is probably our most popular window, is our pre-glazed system. As you can see, it's got the 1-inch glass stops on either side of the glazing. As I mentioned prior, it has the fill material inside or between the two glazings, and then the perforation. So we'll either have a fiberglass fill or a foam fill in that location, and then the black perforated metal would be between the two glazings. These can be done for a single stud wall, double stud wall, very custom depths. In some cases, we can go up to 24-inch wide wall systems. And as we increase the depth of the system or the window system, it is also going to increase the performance of the window at the same time. At the lower right, you can also see that we have a system where we can mullion these windows. So for large openings, for office locations, for multiple, wide windows, 20-foot windows that may be 5 foot tall, you can do 4 and 5 window options that are mullioned together to give you a very high STC performing window, but also gives you the functionality of and cost benefit of maybe a smaller window in the process. Our split frame window is, as I mentioned, it's really 2 frames that get joined only by the perforated liner, and they can follow 2 separate window wall systems. So very unique in the industry. Currently, it's something where we see it used in a lot of studio applications or applications that would have maybe a wider or a more unique separation in the wall types. We also look at that where we want to wrap the wall to give it maybe a similar look to one of the hollow metal frames of a door or something similar to that. These are also very nice for installation because they can go into spaces that are a little bit less tolerant than what you would have in a hollow metal window and be installed on site, collapse, surround that wall or that cavity, and then the glazing goes in after. We also can do the windows in a sloped configuration. So in some cases, the acousticians may elect to have the windows slope either upwards or downwards, depending on what we're trying to reflect and what they're trying to reflect it to. Those can be anywhere from, say, 3 degrees of slope all the way up through 7 degrees of slope. We can also double slope the glass if it's a more unique application. The only limitation is as we increase the slope, it's going to decrease the pocket or the cavity between the two glazings, which can affect the STC rating. And one thing I should mention, and on the prior STC rating chart, some of those glass thicknesses are selected because of a particular wall thickness. In some cases, we can change the glass thickness according to your particular wall construction. So say if we're wanting to meet an STC 53, we have a 10-inch thick wall. It may be a quarter glass configuration, but all of a sudden we may want to go down to a 6-inch thick wall. Well, then we may need to step up to a 1/2 3/8 glazing configuration to reach that same rating. That's all stuff that we do as salespeople within noise barriers or our design engineers, and we look at those various thicknesses to help meet your particular needs in the field. So for any given wall construction and given frame construction with a fixed airspace between the layers, if you increase the thickness of glass and you make them different on thickness, the STC rating will increase. For a given wall construction of a given frame construction, if you increase the airspace between the layers of glass, the STC rating will also increase. This would be a little bit different example of a mullion style window, as we may take it within consideration. The mullion may just be a live object within the window. So say if we have a unique situation, like a side light next to a door, and you just want to have a visual mullion there. It's something that we can actually build into the system differently than joining the door uniquely, or the window uniquely. So this is just a detail that we do offer. It's more of a decorative detail than anything, but is something that's definitely available. I want to give you some examples of some of the windows that we've done in the past. This would actually be a long split frame window at one of the gas companies. If you notice how large this window is, one of the challenges is trying to get that unit in as a glazed piece. The glass on these units end up getting thicker because of the size. And then the frame's also very heavy. So trying to get a system in that may be, 700 to 1,000 pounds fully glazed, this gives the ability to do those larger windows and then glaze them in the field. This would be an example of the wide hollow metal frame that I had mentioned earlier. Up to about 24 inches is where we really try to keep the depth limited to. But you can see where we still have the perforated liner between the glazings. It really helps acoustically in this type of situation. This one actually happens to be at a firing range. So at the same time, if necessary, we can make that a bullet resistant window and an STC rated window for this type of application. This is an example of the sloped window. This is one of the SAE studios in New York. Again, it can be a single sloped window or a double sloped window. Your acoustician would probably direct you whether they want it facing up or down. Typically, we see it oriented in the downward position more commonly, but depending on their absorptive location and where they're trying to direct the noise to, that can vary dramatically. This is an example of some window systems that we're starting to see more and more of on the marketplace or demand for. This is one of our split frame window systems, but we're using a butt glazed system or butt glazed orientation of the glass within that split frame system. So what we're trying to do here is avoid the mullion, but try to maintain the performance. The The split frame or the butt glazing is just basically an indicator that the two pieces of glazing are butted up next to each other, and that's filled with a silicone material. It's almost impossible to test this at a laboratory just because of the configuration of doing this, but we've actually had extremely good field results in all situations where we've accomplished these windows. More examples of some windows. This would actually be a UN facility for interpreter offices at the top, radio station at the bottom, where they have live rooms and audience space separated. And then the right side is actually a mullioned window going into a conference area. This last couple sets here, this is a Art Institute facility where we do a lot of the doors and windows and those types of facilities. If you notice, there is a fairly large, tall window to the left here that we also can really accomplish. In the last few years, the glazing manufacturers have been able to come up with these larger systems or glass systems in the various thicknesses, and we've been able to accomplish or accommodate those in our frame types. This would be an example of a very custom system that we did. It is a window wall system. They are unique to our STC64 frame. If you notice, this window is going to be about 10 inches deep. It's kind of an optical illusion on how what the actual thickness looks like, but the depth of those windows between the two glazing is 10 inches. And this is in a very unique Uframe that we have available. And then the system goes into a grid system and then dressed with these metal channels or metal flashings around the system. Our STC 64 and 62 systems were tested as an assembly at the same time. So we know that they perform extremely well, as we tested 3 modules in the laboratory, and they are designed to go in a system similar to this or wall system of your selection and perform extremely well in the field. Well, I'd sure like to thank you very much for your time today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself at jcardell@noisebarriers.com. My number is 719-434-7968 or at www.noisebarriers.com. We sure appreciate your time.